All right, so let's see how we're going to use our patterns. Now, traditionally, you would have the pattern and you would maybe pin it onto your fabric and then cut it out. But because these are such small pieces, what I do, this is what I do, but you obviously can do it, whatever makes you feel comfortable. I get the pieces and I glue it down to some thin cardboard. You could probably even use cardstock. But, these just come from packaging. If you have some cereal or crackers or, something. What I would do is glue these down and then cut them out. And now that gives you a little stability. Okay, so that would be the first thing I would suggest is to glue it down onto your cardboard. Now, what I do, and again, if you're a sewer and you have your techniques of how you like to do things, then go for it. If you've never really sewed that much, small things like this, then I would suggest doing what I do because I'm a cheater. Because I'm not experienced at anything. I just try everything. So what I do is I get the pieces parts and then I just use a regular old pencil and I draw out the pattern and I still don't cut it out because if you cut that out, can you imagine this little piece, it's so flimsy, how are you going to ever sew that? So I would take this entire piece right here and then go to your sewing machine and then literally sew on the line. And after you sewed everything on the line, then you can obviously cut it. Now, if you are a hand sewer, I would still do it this way. I would keep them all together. I would hand stitch all of this and then cut them apart. Because actually, the first one I did, I hand sewed all these. I would never do that again because I had to sew it like 2 times, just like to overlap the stitching so that when I stuffed it, the stuff wouldn't come out. So if you are a hand sewer and you know how to do the really small stitches, still I think with something this small and you're going to be stuffing it, you're going to have to stitch like 2 times. Okay, so if you have a sewing machine, I think that would be the way to go. All right, so you're going to go ahead and sew along the line. Now, if you are not familiar, if you're not, haven't worked with patterns, dress patterns or things like that, some things may not be as obvious to those that us that have in the past. You're going to have to leave, like for instance, on the body, this section you saw like a broken, I can't see it now because I put a mark over it, but that's an indication that you would not sew there. It makes sense, but sometimes we get carried away and we sew where we're not supposed to. So you wouldn't sew there because you're going to have to turn it inside out. So you might put a mark just to remind yourself somewhere on your fabric. Also here, this goes in the back, so this is all open. This is where the face goes, so you don't sew on that broken line. Here also, this is the leg. You're going to leave that open, and the same thing on this one. Now, where it's a little different is here on the arm. Now, I left mine open at the end, um, but you may want to have, it sewed in the bottom and stuffed in. So if you're gonna leave it just open on the bottom, like I did this one, then you would just sew to a certain point and back stitch and just leave this hanging. Or if you want to stuff down here and up here, then you would leave an opening somewhere around here so you could stuff that way and stuff this way, and then you would hand stitch it closed. Okay, so that's the only main things you need to remember, so you don't have to go back and, if you accidentally sew it, it's a pain because it's so small. It's a pain to have to undo it and back stitch everything. You know what I mean? Okay, so you mark these all down. Put your pins so your fabric doesn't move all over the place. And I like to pin inside of each individual body part. And then just sew. And I would sew with the smallest stitch that your machine will allow on this kind of fabric. You know, everybody's has a different number on their on their machine. So obviously the number I use may not be the number you use, but I did it at 2.5 just to give you an idea. Obviously, you know, 1 would be the smallest. So it's a pretty small stitch. And let me um, um, just make sure it doesn't start to gather, because you get it too small with the kind of fabric you have, then it's just it'll start to bunch a little bit. So just be careful about that. The tension gets kind of crazy. And I don't have the best machine. I have a really inexpensive machine, so mine does kind of like wacky stuff. All right, so then you would go and you would sew all those, and making sure that you are leaving the proper openings, and make sure you backstitch everything, because we're going to be rough with these because they're so small, and we're turning them inside out and then we're stuffing them. So we're not going to be gentle with these at all. So make sure you backstitch everywhere. All right. Okay, so after you've done all of that and you cut them out, and then you're going to turn them inside out. Now, I was going to, let me tell you now, I was going to film turning these inside out. So I thought, well, I'll do half of them ahead of time, and then I'll do the other half with you guys. Do you know, it took me almost, I'm not exaggerating, because some of these are so small, it took me like 20 minutes to do one. So I figured, you know what, you guys, you know, you just turn it inside out the best you can. And sometimes, you know, you make a mistake and you poke the pokey hole all the way through, which I did right there. But hey, you know, once we do all the stuff we're going to do to it, nobody's going to see anything. You're the only one that's going to know. But when you cut the fabric, I'll show you on this one. I have pinking shears, but you don't have to have pinking shears. But you can see how much I left there. Not too much, but just enough. And just cut that, and then of course obviously this one's super easy to turn, but once you get into these little small ones, then yeah, it is very tedious, but hey, you're ending up with something very delicate. So nobody said it was going to be easy. I never said it was going to be easy. So then you would turn these all, and then on this one, this is the one, is that the one? Let me see. Yeah, this is the one that you can leave, whoops, here we go. Leave open or sew all the way. I left the bottom open. So, just so you know. Now, on the other one I made, I did close it. And so, how did I do that? Oh, no, these are the arms. Excuse me. These are the arms. So, I left, that goes up here like that. So, I just left that like that. This one I left a lot longer. This one I cut just the length of the actual pattern. Okay, so the next step is going to be stuffing all these things. Now, it isn't like difficult, but it is, again, tedious, because you have a long way to put this stuff in. So I like using this stick helps a lot. Well, it's even a little, that barely gets in there, but it gets in there. So if you have a chopstick of any kind, or, you know, even a real thin screwdriver, whatever will get down into here, because you got to get all the way down there. So that's going to be fun too. So I'm going to go ahead off camera and stuff all of these except for maybe one, and then I'll come back and I'll do that one with you guys. And that way you can see how much trouble and how much time it takes. And then we're going to go from there. All right? I'll be right back. Well, not right back. It'll probably take me an hour or two to do that. And then we'll come back and do one together. Okay, so I've stuffed these, the legs, a couple of legs, arms, little body. And it took me a couple of hours. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I just grabbed some batting that I have, and I just find whatever tools I think might get it in there. It really just a hit and miss. Sometimes one tool will work and then it won't work on the other one. I don't know what the difference is. It's the same batting and they're pretty much the same size. But you know how that goes. It's just sometimes things are temperamental. And you might already have your own tricks. You know, if you've made dolls in the past. I'm not a doll maker, so I don't hardly ever do anything like this. So your experience might be a little more advanced. Because see, now it's just going through the batting, it's not pushing the batting. And I need to get some of that all the way down to the bottom. See, this is too fat to go that way. So that's the goal. It's kind of like, don't let it bunch up. If it does, you just got to keep pushing it. Because if you just keep putting more, it'll never get down to the toes or the hands, whatever we're doing. So it just takes a little patience. Sometimes more patience than I have. And then I find other tools. This is for my clay and my encaustic, but hey, I try everything. See if I can get it moving. But usually it just goes right through the batting, you know, because these things are all pointy. I'm sure they make tools for this. I just don't have any. And I know some of you ladies have a better way of doing this and you're laughing at me. That's okay. I'm learning. Okay, that started it moving a little bit better. And you can get it as stuffed or, you know, floppy as you want it. That's the beauty about this doll, you know, you can adapt it into so many, you know, different looks and styles. So if you find it hard to get it to the toes, go, oh, that's the look I wanted. I wanted a floppy look. I wanted the floppy look. Uh-oh, ambulance. Sammy's out there having fun howling. Okay. It's only to about right there. It hasn't hit the toe yet. Let's see if we can get a little push. A little better. Still not there. Oopsie. Oh, it's getting better. It's getting better. Yay! hold on to this here so when you pull it, you don't pull the batting with it. Okay. Oh, that feels pretty good. Let's give one more little tug, see if we can get down to the wee bottom of the toe. You can see now why, you know, you want to have a pretty small stitch, or else every time you do this, you're going to create a hole on your seams. I've done that too. Yeah, ask me how I know. All right, so I think it's about the same fullness. You kind of want to match up how much you put, you know, in the same body part, you know, if it's the legs or the arms, just so you don't have one all buffed up and muscular and the other one all, you know, flailing there, just hanging. Okay, so that's what you want to do with all these pieces, is fill them up. I haven't closed anything off. We're not at that point yet. I think these are the arms. Let's see where the body parts go. I already forget. I think these are the arms. And these are the upper legs. And then these are the bottom part of the leg. Okay, and then there you go. That's what we have so far. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to be attaching the body parts. All right? So that will be our next step.